Hello everybody, welcome to the Beanbird 2 channel where we talk about testimonies and the goodness of God. I have a dream to share with you that my daughter Ballet had on September 29th, and so I'm going to be sharing that dream. But before I get into it, I just want to say first that the reason I share this is not to entertain or amuse, but this is a warning from the Lord, and it's a call for us to be motivated to intercede, and it also illuminates the season that we're in. And so there's a lot of symbolism in the dream. So first I'm going to share the dream, then I'm going to get into the symbols that are in the dream, and we'll go from there. Okay, to start with, she was inside of a church, and she was walking out of the church doors, which were open. And the church exit went to a bridge, and this bridge led to a place she couldn't see the end of where it went to. And I really think that the beginning of this representation is the ending of the church age, which is coming, and that she was exiting the church age onto this bridge. And I think that Jesus is the bridge. Jesus is the way, and he connects us to the Father. So she's exiting the church on this bridge, and along the way, she looks out over the side of the bridge, and she sees this very large hill. Too small to be a mountain, but a very large hill. While she's looking at this hill, she realizes that it's not just an anthill, but that this is an anthill. And so she sees ants all over this hill, and she sees bears and wolves on the hill. And the bears and the wolves are eating the ants. And at this time, she's aware that there are people surrounding her on the bridge as well, and they also are looking at this. In fact, some of them are taking pictures of this hill with their camera. Then the scene changes, and she's no longer there. Now she's in our driveway of our home, and she's looking into the sky, and she sees an orange sphere in the sky. I asked her, is this a moon? Is this a planet? Like, what is this orange sphere? And she said, I don't know. It was just an orange sphere in the sky, and I knew that it meant that Jesus was coming imminently. And when we saw this in the sky, she said we began to jump up and down and to scream pray, which was just with such excitement that we were jumping down, exclaiming the Lord, praising his name, and we were just shouting, Jesus, Jesus, and just like praying with exuberance. And it was at this that the dream ended. So I went and spent some time looking into the various symbols that were in her dream, and I want to spend some time talking about some of the things that I see and I pull out of this dream. So as I already mentioned, I think that the dream begins with her exiting the church age, and I do believe that the time of the church age is coming to a close and that the tribulation will soon be starting. And she was on this bridge, and she was safe, and the people with her were safe, and they were observing this distant anthill from a distance, from a place of safety, and they were able to see what was going on. And I think that that kind of represents what will be happening on the earth during the tribulation. And so there was this large anthill that was way larger than any anthill that would really be present on the earth. Now, typically when we think of ants, we think of positive representations. Ants are small, and they may be like an insignificant creature as it would be, but they often represent wisdom, diligence, community, foresight, and planning. We think of ants as having joint effort with a shared purpose, and that they labor despite many obstacles. In fact, there is a scripture, Proverbs chapter 6, verse 6 through 8, that says, Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler, provideth her meat in the summer, and gathereth her food in harvest. And so here we see an ant as an example of wisdom and planning and doing the right thing. However, with the size of this anthill being exorbitantly large, I did a little bit more research into anthills, and I think that there's more to discover here. So first of all, the purpose of an anthill is it serves as an entrance to an underground nest, and it helps to control the internal temperature of the nest, and it protects the nest from predators or other intruders that might want to destroy the nest. The function of anthills are that they act as homes, food for storage facilities, and the nurseries for the entire ant colonies. But where it gets really interesting is that there is such a thing called a super colony. And this is when you have many ant colonies over a large area that unite. The largest known super colony contained 306 million worker ants, 1 million queens, and 45,000 nests interconnected by underground passageways. This is considered an invasive species type of ant because they have the capacity to grow without constraints. These colonies work as a collective supermind, and while they're spatially separated, they're socially connected, and they harm the environment because of their ability to grow without constraint. So it's actually a bad thing. So in this sense, I think this is what we're seeing in this dream by this enormous anthill is a super colony of an interconnected mind. And I think that that actually represents globalism. And I do see like almost symbolism as far as like the Tower of Babel, growing together, uniting in a joint effort and a shared purpose, laboring despite obstacles, having this hive mind as it is, that I think represents globalism. And these ants were working on this hill. And while they were working on this hill, there were bears and wolves present that were devouring them in large numbers. So I want to start with talking about the bear. The bear is a symbol of strength and judgment and destruction. Bears are known for their brute strength, and they symbolize power and unpredictability. They're agile despite their size, and they display shocking speed. They also are known for their fierce protection of their young. The bear shows up in symbolism in the Bible, and it's often associated with judgment. We see it in 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 23, with the story of Elisha. So Elijah was the prophet that came after Elijah with a J, and you can remember that as like J comes before S, first Elijah, then Elisha. So Elisha's ministry began after Elijah was translated into heaven on a chariot of fire. And so I want to read this little bit here about the bears and how that had to do with the story of Elisha. Picking up in verse 23, then he went there from Bethel, and as he was going up by the way, young lads came out from the city and mocked him and said, "Go up, you bald head, go up, you bald head." When he looked behind him, he saw them, and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 female bears came out from the woods and tore up 42 lads of their number. And then he went from there to Mount Carmel, where he returned to Samaria. That's just a short little story, but I want to talk about these 42 lads. These were not children, but they were infidels and idolatrous young men, probably in their late teens or early 20s. They called him bald head, which was a disgrace, a type of insult. It could be that he was literally bald or that he shaved his head to denote a separation in being in the prophetic office as a prophet. But it's actually more likely that they called him bald head to show a type of scorn and contempt toward him. And they were sarcastically taunting him and insulting the Lord's prophet by telling him to go up, referencing Elijah's translation into heaven. So essentially they were saying, go away. They were jeering him, and probably they had, picked these things up from the community or maybe their parents, and they were disrespecting a prophet of the Lord. But Elijah replied by speaking a curse upon them, and the Lord's punishment was that 42 of these youths were mauled by 2 female bears. And it showed that the people should respect the Lord's prophet. But I also wanted to read this story to share with you something that we can remember, that while these 42 youths were mauled by these 2 female bears in God's judgment, that Elisha, who was with the Lord, was also in the presence of these 2 female bears, and he was not harmed. And so I want to say that to speak peace to anyone who's anxious about the time to come, that the Lord is with us, and that when we are with him and we are abiding in his word, we don't have to fear God's judgment, because his judgment won't come on us like that. And that, we can be protected, and he will protect us as long as we're in this world until the rapture or whatever happens, that the Lord is going to keep us and he's going to protect us until that time comes. And that as these things happen in the world, while they may be scary, that the Lord is going to keep us. And so I just want to say that we should remember that. We also see reference to the bear in Revelation chapter 13, verse 2, where it says, "The beast that appears from the sea has features like a leopard, feet like a bear, and a mouth like a lion," symbolizing different biblical kingdoms. The bare feet represents the brutal and crushing character of the Medo-Persian Empire. The vision uses the bear as a sign of destructive power and force. Also, in Daniel chapter 7, verse 5, it says, the bear symbolizes the Medo-Persian Empire. This image follows a vision of 4 beasts, each representing different kingdoms, and the bear-like beast raised up on one side has 3 ribs in its mouth. And this vision highlights the bear as a symbol of aggressive power, tying into the historical destructiveness associated with these empires. So the other thing that was on this anthill was the wolf. And wolves are used in Scripture to teach lessons about being vigilant, teaching about the nature of deceit, and the importance of having good leadership. Wolves in the Bible show us that we need spiritual discernment, and that there are people out there that have malicious intent, people out there that are masking who they really are under a facade of benevolence or good. But really their heart is evil and their intent is bad. And so it's necessary that we have the spiritual discernment that comes through having time with the Lord in prayer and worship. Wolves also show the significance of having good leadership. We see the comparison and contrast of a shepherd versus the hireling. The shepherd shows a sacrificial love for the sheep and care. The hireling lacks genuine care, abandons the sheep, and is in search of personal gain. Wolves are also shown to the fact that we need to have vigilance because wolves stalk their prey, and so we need to be spiritually alert. We don't want to be caught unaware to the dangers around us, and we don't want to be fooled by people who pretend to be righteous, but they really are distorting the truth. They're being false teachers, and they're acting as deceivers. So I think that there's a lot that can be taken from this dream. I think that we can know that we're safe on the bridge with Jesus, that is going to take us to heaven. We'll be with him. We'll be with the Lord. The church age is coming to a close. There is this enormous anthill that I believe represents globalism and the hive mindset, very motivated by the pursuit of self, worshiping self as an idol, and creating and building, man's empire. And that the people that are joined into this effort, the ants on this anthill, will be in a place where they find themselves devoured by wolves and bears on this anthill. And so it's important that we choose Jesus today, that we walk with him, we stay close with him, but that we have the peace and comfort of knowing that when we're with God, we don't have to worry about being on that anthill. But there's still a need to intercede because there are people that don't know Jesus and they don't know that they're in danger. They don't recognize, they don't have the vigilance or the spiritual discernment to know the season that we're in. And so the next scene of her dream was the sphere in the sky that represented that Jesus was coming soon. And we don't want to be caught unaware. We want to be ready when Jesus comes. When we see that he is coming and the day has finally come that we're going to meet him, we don't want to be caught feeling ashamed or not ready. And so today is the day to recognize where we are in the season. The hour is late. Jesus is coming soon. If there's something that the Lord has called you to do that now. The time to spend time in prayer and worship and being with him is now. And the time to spread the gospel, get baptized, do the Lord's work, be caught working when he comes. This is the time. So we are in the end of the end days. And I hope that this message encourages you. If you're in the Lord, you're safe and secure in his arms. If you're not yet made that decision, don't delay. The time is coming to a close and the tribulation will start soon. And we don't want to be on that anthill. And we don't want our loved ones to be stuck on that anthill. So we want to seek the kingdom and his will for us and our lives. So that's it. Thanks.